Let's get right back to the phones for Samuel Hunt, the author of Episteme Scientia, The Law of All That Is, scientific proof that the Genesis account of creation is correct and absolute truth, and this book, he says, should end the debate. Let's say hello to Simcha in North York. It's been holding a while. We appreciate it. Good morning, Simcha.
Good morning. It's Simcha Moshe.
Hey.
I have 3 comments.
Okay, I got time for one quick question.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Okay, so we'll do the darkness-light thing.
Okay.
All right. Even though I want to say, how do you explain a soul? But that can be on the next program, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so we have here, quoting from what he quoted from, this is, Vayahu v'choshis l'bnei v'toyhom. It says the earth, the earth is astonishingly empty with darkness upon the surface of the deep. Okay, we jump a little bit ahead, and then it says, Yehi or v'hi or. It says, let there be light, and there was light. And here it is, here's the ticker. V'ira Elohim, Elokim ha'oiroi ki toiv zodei Elokim. Be'oim ben uveinu choshis. God saw the light, that it was good, and he had to separate it. God separated between the light and between the darkness. Now, how do you explain that? That means that it was a mixture to begin with. Light and darkness was a mixture to begin with, and he had to separate it.
Interesting. Okay. Samuel, where you go with that one?
That is an awesome question, and that requires a huge answer. But let me say this. Before God created the heavens and the earth, there was God and the angels. That's it. And we have no idea what that was like. All right, well, God had a highest angel named Lucifer, the angel of light. Now, there was that kind of light before creation. And then something happened, and Lucifer rebelled. And, in a couple passages, we get this throughout the Bible. But then he caused the war in heaven, and God had to cast him out of heaven. Well, if God is everywhere, how do you cast him out of heaven? Because that's all that existed. So what God did was, when that light then became dissonant to the harmony of God and what was before our creation, because God never changes, so his harmony has never changed. But that light that Lucifer was, and he was over all of the creation before creation. Okay, so that light became darkness, quote-unquote darkness, dissonant to the harmony. And this created a war in heaven between the harmony and the dissonance. And so you could call this the yin-yang if you'd like. But anyway, so God creates this creation. He says, let there be light. So a new light came into existence. And when that new light came into existence, then the old light became darkness. And that's the separation. And this same separation is in the Garden of Eden. You had the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat a tree of knowledge of good and evil, which now there's this sort of dissonance against God that existed, which didn't exist before Lucifer's rebellion, and for his pride caused him to fall or whatever. Whatever happened, we really don't know. It's really not mentioned throughout the Scriptures.
What is the fall, Samuel? What is the fall in scientific terms?
Well, the fall is dissonance. Okay, so now there's 2 types of knowledge in the universe. There's the Luciferian knowledge, which appears to be like light, is a type of light, but then in the true light of God, it's complete darkness. Okay, so there's the tree of life and there's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Do not eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or you will surely die. So if everything in creation was created by God, and his word is light, and from light everything was created in the beginning, then the separation or the casting out of the Garden of Eden was the same casting out that Lucifer experienced, and we experienced the same casting out after we ate of the knowledge or partook of the knowledge of Lucifer. And then we became darkness just like Lucifer did. And then God had to wrap us in this world that we see now. It's a holographic illusion, and I show this experimentally in our book, that all matter is only virtual matter in a hologram. And we're stuck in this world for a time until we come back to the knowledge of God or the harmony of God. And, of course, that takes process, as mentioned in John chapter 1. But and not to get into all that. But it wasn't an apple. It wasn't a literal tree. You got to remember the language is poetic, and it's a parable. Just like Jesus came to teach in parables. It's the same kind of thing that's going on here, but it's describing a literal event that happened. Now, when we partook of that knowledge, we became darkness just like, Lucifer did. And so then we got cast out and then wrapped into this holographic world that we're in now. And this is what science studies when they keep God out of science and natural causes and everything.
Absolutely astounding information, Samuel. Let's grab a quick call here from Andy in Etobicoke. This probably will be the last one. We'll try to squeeze in more if we can. Andy, good morning. Welcome to News Talk 1010. You're on the line with Samuel Hunt.
Hey, good morning. Your previous caller kind of touched on it at the beginning, talking about souls. But what I wanted to ask is, your sound series sounds great, by the way. But like you talked about, like a Model T and a pyramid before. But how would your series work on intangible objects or forces like gravity or souls or anything like that?
Good question. Your audience is awesome.
We got very little time here. We got about 40 seconds, unfortunately.
Okay, 40 seconds. Contraction phase of a sound wave is gravity. The rarefaction of sound waves is the reduction of gravity. So the very center point of the contraction of a wave becomes where gravity is, the poles of the Earth, the poles of the Sun. The Moon is less gravity because it is farther away from, it is in a rarefaction phase of the Earth's sound wave, if to be simple. And then the Moon has its own sound wave, too, so it has a little bit of gravity, but it has to all be in harmony with the gravity of the Sun, and the Sun's pole, and the sound wave of the Sun. Hopefully that makes a little sense.
Samuel, listen, we got to have you on again soon because there's so many things we didn't touch upon, and I know that Simca and Andy both wanted to talk about, how does your theory explain the existence of the soul and maybe, even resurrection and all of these things still on the table. Would you be good to come back next month?
Next month, next week, yeah, whenever you'd like.
Absolutely wonderful. Okay, Samuel Hunt, again, the book is Episteme Scientia, and you can go on to the website, which is www.scienceprovescreation.com. Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you very much.
Talk again
soon.
soon.
Mr. Syrett.
Bye-bye.